Speaking of clickbait, Kotaku says that nVidia cancels their cheapest new PC graphics card, leaving only the expensive huge ones. No, that's not what happened. So, obviously, the RTX 4090 has launched. The RTX 4080 should be launching near the end of October. What is it, October 29th, I want to say, like sometime next week. Don't know. Don't have one. At this point, I don't even care if nVidia calls me. But there was some controversy around the announcement of the Ada Lovelace graphics cards, the 4000 series RTX cards, specifically around the naming scheme. Now, unfortunately, this article doesn't have the exact specs of the card, so let me pull that up real quick.
Sounds like your in-studio employee just found a really awful link all around.
Yeah.
Gonna have a talk with that guy.
Yep, there you go. All right. So here we go. So the 4080 or 4090 has something like 15,000 CUDA cores, I wanted to say. The 4080 came in two variants, the 16 gigabyte and the 12 gigabyte. Now, nVidia has used dual SKUs before, usually with some very minute differences. The GTX 1060 is the last time that I remember this really happening, and there were actually a number of different GTX 1060s. They all use the same physical GPU, so the same physical die. The 6 gig had slightly more CUDA cores than either the 5 gig or the 3 gig, the 5 gig coming much later in the generation. But this time around, there's a stark difference between them. So for starters, the RTX 4080 16 gig has 9,728 CUDA cores, versus the 12 gigabyte version only had 7,680, which is a 26% disparity towards the higher tier graphics card, which means it would be only 3/4 as fast. It would be only 75% the speed of the same card, of the same 4080. Look, I'm willing to forgive 5 to 10%, with slightly higher clocked or higher tier graphics cards. With the 1060, I wasn't thrilled that they split the 1060 with a 6 gig and a 3 gig, nor was a lot of the media. But there was a $30 price point $50 price point at launch. It was $229 versus $279, I want to say, at launch of those cards. And honestly, performance per dollar was roughly the same. And so it's really hard to point the finger and go, aha, we got you. In this case, though, that's quite a disparity. That only getting 3/4 the performance when you go, hey, I know NVIDIA makes a 4090 and a 4080 and presumably will a 4070 and a 4060. Hey, I'm going to get the second highest tier. But you know what? I don't need 16 gigs. I'll just go with 12. Well, what you would have wound up with was 3/4 of a graphics card. That's why NVIDIA killed this card. And probably because of this move and because of backlash from the media and from consumers, they're going to have to renumber and rename their entire product stack below this. This is not just NVIDIA's canceling the lower tier 4080, although it might be. They might just remove it from their product stack. But if they rename this card to the 4070, what happens to the card that would have been the 4070? Does that become the 4060? What happens to the 4050? Does that become a, GT 4030? Like NVIDIA has all of their SKUs already mapped out for the next 2 years of what they expect of these dies and what their binning is going to be. They're not stupid. These aren't just willy-nilly things that they're throwing out here. There's acceptable loss, there's acceptable bins, there's who gets which tier of card, there's where you can put each GPU die. Having to cancel a die like this throws the entire rest of your product stack into disarray. So it's going to be really interesting to see what comes out if this 7680 CUDA core GPU with 12 gigabytes of GDDR6 ever sees the light of day. And what is it called when it is? Or does it just go the way of the dodo and they come up with another product to integrate that SKU into, maybe some kind of Tesla or RTX based card? Who knows? But this was not just we decided not to do this one. No, you got called out. Call it what it is.
Yeah, Kotaku brands it almost as like a push to make consumers spend more money.
Right. Which it kind of was, but not for the reasons they're claiming.
Right,
it was called the 4080 to avoid being a 4070 at a higher price point than any previous 70 generation card or 70 series card. It was a push to get more money when they announced it because they put a higher number on it. So, and I'm not going to say good guy NVIDIA for canceling this card either, because they freaking knew what they were doing in the first place. I wonder why NVIDIA never samples me. It's weird.